Captain Du Young stood at the window of his ship, the Dawn Seeker, watching the colorful ships of other alien species zoom past. Their ships moved like bright fish in a stream, powered by fancy antimatter engines. His own ship, with its simple fusion drive, felt like a rowboat among speedboats. The Dawn Seeker was heading to another Galactic Council meeting. Du Young didn't want to go, but his people, the Hammy, had to attend. They needed to keep their place in galactic politics, even if it meant facing more mockery. "Captain," called First Officer Jai Yun from her station, "we're receiving the usual traffic warnings. They want us to stay in the slow lane." Her voice carried the same tiredness he felt. After 300 years in space, the Hammy were still treated like children who had just learned to walk. Du Young nodded and gripped the rail harder. "Keep our course, Jai Yun. Let them wait a few extra minutes for their precious meeting." The massive council station came into view. It looked like a giant silver flower blooming in space, with each petal being a docking area for different species. The Hammy ships, of course, were assigned to the outermost petal, the farthest from the central meeting hall. As Du Young and Jai Yun walked through the station's corridors, other aliens passed them by. Some wore floating anti-gravity suits, others moved in shimmering energy fields. The Hammy, in their simple pressure suits, stood out like ancient warriors at a technology fair. "Look at them," whispered a tall, blue-skinned alien to its companion. "Still using physical buttons on their suits. How quaint." Du Young pretended not to hear, but his face grew hot. The Hammy suits might look simple, but they were reliable. They didn't fail when hit by solar flares like the fancy energy suits did. The council chamber was huge, with rising rings of seats reaching up toward a glass dome that showed the stars. Du Young and Jai Yun took their seats in the back row, where the developing species sat. Supreme Counselor Ta, a being of pure energy shaped like a humanoid, floated to the center platform. "We gather today to discuss the growing threat of space pirates in the Outer Rim," they announced. "The Drachnid Empire has proposed a new defense system using quantum-linked shields." A sharp-featured alien in a floating chair sneered at Du Young. "Perhaps the Hammy can offer their expertise in fusion cannons. They're so good at obsolete technology." Laughter rippled through the chamber. Du Young's hands tightened into fists, but he kept quiet. Let them laugh. The Hammy fusion cannons might be simple, but they worked. They had defended Hammy space for centuries. "The Council recognizes the Drachnid proposal," Ta continued. "All advanced civilizations will receive the quantum shield specifications. The developing species may continue with their current defense systems." More snickers. Jai Yun leaned close to Du Young. "Our ships are strong, Captain. They've never failed us." "I know," Du Young replied quietly, "but I'm tired of being treated like we're stupid just because we don't rush to adopt every new technology without testing it properly." The meeting dragged on. Plans were made, technologies were shared, and the Hammy were ignored. As usual, walking back to their ship, Du Young and Jai Yun passed a viewing window. A Drachnid warship was displaying its new quantum shields, shimmering like soap bubbles in space. The gathered aliens oohed and awed. One day, Du Young said softly, "They'll learn that newer doesn't always mean better. The universe is too big and too dangerous to trust only in untested technology." Jai Yun nodded. "Until then, Captain, we keep flying, keep working, and keep proving that the Hammy way has value." They boarded the Dawn Seeker, their primitive ship that had never once broken down in space. As they prepared for departure, Du Young looked at his crew. Proud Hammy, all of them, working their obsolete stations with skill and confidence. "Take us home, First Officer," he ordered, "and keep us in the slow lane. I'd rather be slow and sure than fast and sorry." The Dawn Seeker's fusion drive hummed to life, a steady, reliable sound that had guided them through countless journeys. As they pulled away from the station, Du Young felt a strange sense that something was about to change. He didn't know what, but after 3 centuries of being laughed at, any change would be welcome. Little did he know that somewhere, on a primitive planet called Earth, that change was already beginning. 3 days after the humiliating council meeting, First Officer Jai-yun sat at her sensor station on the Dawn Seeker. The night shift was usually quiet, just the way she liked it. No aliens making fun of their technology, no disapproving looks from the council members. Her screen blinked with a new signal. At first, she thought it was just space noise, but something about the pattern caught her eye. It wasn't random. It had structure, like a song with a clear beat. "Computer, analyze this signal," she ordered. The Hammy might not have fancy AI, but their computers were good at finding patterns. The results made her sit up straight. "Captain Do-young to the bridge," she called over the ship's comm. "I found something strange." Do-young arrived quickly, his uniform wrinkled from sleep. "What is it, First Officer?" "A signal, sir, from this system." She pointed to a spot on the star map. "It's not in our database." Do-young frowned. "That's impossible. Every system in this sector has been mapped." "Not this one." Jai-yun played the signal out loud. A series of regular beeps and pulses filled the bridge. "It's artificial, sir. Someone made this." The captain leaned closer to her screen. "Show me the system details." Jai-yun brought up the scan results. Third planet from a yellow star. Liquid water. Atmosphere with oxygen. And she paused, double-checking her readings. A lot of radio waves. Radio waves. Do-young's eyebrows went up. Nobody uses radio anymore. Not since quantum communication became standard. More crew members arrived on the bridge, drawn by the excitement. Engineer Yu-jin studied the signal pattern. "This is interesting, Captain. The signal is simple, but the way it's encoded, it's clever. Different from anything I've seen." "Sir," Jai-yun said, "according to council rules, we should report this to them first. Let them investigate." Do-young stood quiet for a moment, thinking. The council would just make fun of them again. They'd say the Hanny couldn't even tell the difference between space noise and a real signal. "How far is this system?" he asked. 2 days at standard speed," Jai-yun answered. Do-young smiled. It wasn't his usual tired smile, but one full of excitement. "Plot a course. First Officer, let's take a look ourselves." "But sir, the council thinks we're too primitive to do anything right," Do-young said. "Maybe it's time we proved them wrong. Engineer Yu-jin, can you clean up this signal? Maybe find out what it's saying." Yu-jin nodded eagerly. "Already working on it, sir. It's not encrypted, just different. Give me a few hours." Has the Dawn Seeker changed course? Jai-yun felt nervous but excited. They were breaking council rules, but something about this felt right. This mysterious signal, using old-fashioned radio waves, but in a new way, reminded her of the Hammy, doing things differently, but effectively. 6 hours later, Yu-jin called everyone to the bridge. "I figured it out," she said proudly. It's a repeating message, simple but smart. It says, "Greetings from Earth. We are here. We are ready to meet you." Earth. Do-young tested the strange word. "Never heard of it." "There's more," Yu-jin continued. "They're broadcasting their achievements, their history. They've split the atom, reached their moon. And," she laughed, "they're still using combustion engines to reach space." Instead of laughing, Do-young looked thoughtful. They reached space with combustion engines. That's impressive. Difficult. Like climbing a mountain with your bare hands. Jai-yun studied the signal more closely. "Sir, according to these broadcasts, they've only been in space for about 70 years. But look how far they've come." The bridge crew gathered around the screens, watching data stream in from this unknown world. These Earthers had done things their own way, ignored the usual path of technological development, and still succeeded. "Just like us," Do-young said softly. "They're just like us." He straightened up, his decision made. "Send a response. Tell them." He smiled. "Tell them the Hammy hear them. and we're coming to say hello. As Jai-yun prepared the message, she couldn't help but feel that this discovery would change everything. Sometimes the most important things in the galaxy came from the most unexpected places. The Dawn Seekers sailed on through space, heading toward Earth, breaking Council rules with every light year. But for the first time in a long time, its crew felt like they were doing exactly the right thing. The Dawn Seeker entered Earth's solar system carefully. Captain Du Young had ordered the ship to move slowly, not wanting to frighten the humans with their arrival. Even though the Hanmi were considered primitive by galactic standards, their ship would still look very advanced to a species just starting space travel. "Captain," Jai-yun called from her station, "we're receiving a transmission from the third planet. It's coming from something called the Korean Space Administration." "Put it on screen," Du Young ordered. A human face appeared on the main display. He wore a blue uniform with patches showing Earth writing. "This is Commander Hangil of the KSA. Unknown vessel, please identify yourself." Du Young stepped forward. "I am Captain Du Young of the Hanmi vessel Dawn Seeker. We received your signals and came to say hello." Commander Hangil's eyes widened, but he stayed calm. "Welcome to Earth, Captain Du Young. I must say, we've been broadcasting those signals for decades. You're the first to answer." "Others heard you," Du Young said honestly, "but they think young spacefaring races aren't worth talking to." "We Hanmi disagree." A small smile appeared on Hangil's face. "Then we have something in common already. Would you like to dock with our space station? We'd love to meet face to face." Du Young looked at his crew. They all nodded eagerly. "We would be honored." The Earth space station wasn't very big, but Du Young was impressed by how well it worked. The humans had solved space problems in clever ways. Where the Hanmi used artificial gravity generators, the humans simply spun their station to create gravity. It was a simple solution, but it worked perfectly. Hangil met them in a meeting room with a huge window showing Earth below. "I hope you don't mind," he said, "but I brought our head of research, Dr. Taiwan." Taiwan was younger than Hangil, with bright, curious eyes. He carried a small device that floated beside him. "This is Lisa," he explained, "our AI assistant." Jai-yun looked surprised. "You have AI, but you're still using chemical rockets." "Oh yes," Taiwan smiled. "We developed AI before we mastered fusion power. Everyone said we were doing it backward, but it made sense to us. Lisa helps us design better ships, run better tests, and solve problems faster." Du Young watched Lisa float around, talking with the humans, helping them explain things. The Galactic Council races all used neural interfaces, claiming AI was too primitive, but this AI seemed faster and more flexible than any neural interface he'd seen. "Would you like to see our engine room?" Hangil offered. "It's not very advanced, but—" "We'd love to," Du Young interrupted. He was tired of people apologizing for primitive technology. The engine room surprised them all. Instead of trying to copy advanced alien designs, the humans had perfected their own technology. Their nuclear pulse drive was simple but powerful. It used small nuclear explosions to push the ship forward. "Incredible," Engineer Yu Jin said, studying the engine designs. "You've taken basic physics and pushed it to its limit. This is engineering at its finest." Hangil looked pleased. "We had to work with what we had. No antimatter, no quantum drives, just good old-fashioned nuclear power and clever engineering." "That's what I don't understand," Jai-yun said. "Why haven't the other galactic races found you yet? Surely they detected your ships." Taiwan laughed. "Oh, they found us. 2 years ago, a big ship came by, looked at our technology, called us primitive, and left. Said we weren't worth contacting until we developed proper space drives." Du Young felt angry. It was the same treatment the Hanmi had faced for centuries. "Their loss," he said, "because I think we have a lot to learn from each other." "Agreed," Hangil said. "Your fusion drives, our AI, your space experience, our fresh ideas. Together, we might surprise those advanced races. As they continued talking and sharing ideas, Du Young felt more hopeful than he had in years. The humans were young in space travel, yes, but they were smart and creative. They solved problems in new ways, ways the older races had forgotten about or never thought of. Looking out at Earth through the station window, Du Young knew he'd made the right choice in breaking council rules. Sometimes the best allies weren't the most advanced, but the ones who understood you best. News of the Hamni's contact with Earth reached the Galactic Council quickly. Supreme Counselor Tao was not happy. The glowing energy being paced back and forth in the council chamber, their light flickering with anger. Captain Du Young, Tao's voice boomed, you broke our most important rule. No contact with developing species without council approval. Du Young stood straight, facing the angry counselor. Jia Yun stood beside him, while Commander Han Gil and Dr. Tadwan watched from a side chamber. The council had barely allowed the humans to come as witnesses. With respect, Counselor, Du Young said, Earth is ready for contact. They have space stations, AI technology, and primitive technology. A Drachnid representative interrupted. The sharp-featured alien sneered at the humans. They still use explosions to power their ships, like children playing with fireworks. Taiwan whispered to Han Gil. At least our fireworks work. Han Gil had to hide his smile. Meanwhile, in another part of the council station, Intelligence Officer Sunmai was working late in the Hammy data center. She had noticed something strange in the Drachnid Empire's recent movements. Their ships were gathering in unusual patterns. Her computer beeped. A decoded message appeared on her screen. Her eyes went wide as she read it. Back in the council chamber, the argument continued. The humans must be isolated until they develop proper technology, Ta declared. And the Hanmi must be punished for breaking our rules. Suddenly, Sun Mai burst into the chamber. She ignored the angry shouts of the council guards. Captain Du Young. Everyone, you need to see this. She connected her datapad to the main display. Star maps appeared, showing Drachnid fleet movements. The Drachnid Empire is planning an invasion. They're going to attack the outer systems first, then push toward the council worlds. The chamber erupted in chaos. The Drachnid representative jumped up, shouting, These are lies. Primitive races trying to cause trouble. But Sunmight wasn't finished. Look at these shipping records. The Drachnids have been stockpiling weapons. Their new quantum shields aren't for defense. They're for attack. Ta raised their glowing hands for silence. These accusations are serious. But why should we trust data from? They paused, looking down at the Hani and humans, less advanced races. Han Gil stepped forward. Lisa analyzed the fleet movements. The AI assistant projected a detailed simulation. It showed clearly how the Drachnid ships were moving into attack positions, hiding their numbers behind civilian shipping routes. Impossible, the Drachnid representative shouted. No simple AI could decode our movement patterns. That's the problem with thinking you're superior, Taiwan said quietly. You underestimate everyone else. But the council members were already turning away. They trusted their advanced technology more than any evidence from primitive races. Ta spoke formally. The council dismisses these concerns. They are clearly an attempt by the Hanmi to avoid punishment for breaking our rules. As they left the chamber, Du Young felt frustrated but not surprised. Jia Yun touched his arm. Captain, what do we do now? We prepare, he said firmly. Sun Mai, how long until the Drachnid fleet moves? 2 weeks, maybe less, she answered. They're almost ready. Han Gil nodded. Then we have 2 weeks to get ready. The council might not believe us, but we believe each other. They'll regret ignoring us, Sun Mai said, looking at her data again. The Drachnids think their quantum shields make them invincible. They're not ready for ships that use primitive technology. Du Young looked at his new human allies. They were young in space travel, yes, but they were smart and unafraid to think differently. Together, Maybe the Hammy and humans could find a way to stop the invasion. "Commander Hangill," he said, "I think it's time we showed the galaxy what primitive races can do." As they walked out of the council station, planning their defense, none of them felt primitive anymore. They felt like pioneers, ready to prove that new ideas could beat old prejudices. The Drachnid invasion came sooner than expected. Their ships appeared at the edge of Hammy space, their quantum shields glowing like evil rainbows. The Council had ignored all warnings, leaving the Hammy and humans to face the threat alone. "Their first wave is approaching," Jai-Yun reported from her station on the Dawnseeker. 5 heavy warships. Captain Du Young looked at his tactical screen. His small fleet of 10 Hammy ships seemed tiny against the massive Drachnid vessels. But they weren't alone. 3 human ships, led by Commander Hangill's Star Chaser, flew beside them. "Remember the plan," Du Young said to all ships. "Let them think they have us beaten." The Drachnid ships fired their energy weapons. The beams splashed harmlessly against their quantum shields as they advanced. Their commander's voice boomed across all channels. "Surrender now, primitives. Your weapons cannot touch us." "He's right about that," Engineer Yu Jin said from the engine room. "Our fusion cannons just bounce off those shields." Lieutenant Ta Wan smiled from his position on the Star Chaser. "Good thing we're not using energy weapons then." He turned to his console. "Lisa, start the launch sequence." The human ships opened their cargo bays. Inside were rows of what looked like simple metal tubes. The Drachnids didn't even bother to scan them. Why would they fear primitive human weapons? "Railguns ready," Ta Wan reported. "These shells are just solid metal, Captain. No energy signature for their shields to stop." Du Young nodded. "All ships, execute pattern break." The Hammy ships split apart, their fusion drives burning bright. They looked like they were running away in fear. The Drachnids laughed over the comm channel. "Look at them scatter. Such cowardly." The human ships fired their railguns. Metal slugs shot out at incredible speeds. The Drachnid quantum shields, designed to stop energy weapons, did nothing against simple kinetic projectiles. The shells punched through their hulls like paper. "Impossible," the Drachnid commander shouted. "They're using primitive projectile weapons." "Sometimes old ideas work best," Hangill said calmly. "Fire second volley." More railgun shots flew out. The Drachnid ships tried to dodge, but they had built their ships expecting energy weapon battles. They were too big, too slow to avoid physical projectiles. The Hammy ships turned around, attacking from new angles. Their fusion drives, so mocked by advanced races, let them turn faster than the antimatter-powered Drachnid ships. "Their shields are failing," Sun Mai reported from her tactical station. "They never designed them to handle physical impacts." 2 Drachnid ships exploded as railgun shots hit their engine cores. Another spun out of control, its bridge destroyed by a direct hit. The remaining 2 ships tried to retreat. "Don't let them escape," Du Young ordered. "They'll warn the others about our weapons." Ta Wan had an idea. "Lisa, calculate firing solution for their engines." The AI responded instantly. The next railgun volley targeted the Drachnid engines perfectly. Both ships stopped dead in space. When the battle was over, Du Young could hardly believe it. They had defeated 5 advanced Drachnid warships without losing a single ship of their own. "See what happens when you underestimate primitive weapons," Hangill said over the comm. Everyone could hear the smile in his voice. Engineer Yu Jin was already studying the damaged Drachnid ships. Their technology is advanced, but they forgot the basics. They were so proud of their energy shields, they forgot about simple physics. "That's the problem with thinking you're superior," Sun Mai added. "You stop looking for new ideas, or old ideas that still work." Du Young looked at his tactical display. More Drachnid ships would come soon. But now they were ready. The combined human and Hammy fleet had proved that clever thinking could beat advanced technology. "All ships, begin salvage operations," he ordered. "And send a message to Earth and Hammy. Tell them how to build railguns. The Drachnids thought they could mock us and invade us. Time to show them how wrong they were. As his crew cheered, Du Young smiled. Sometimes the best way to win wasn't with the newest technology, but with the oldest ideas used in new ways. After their first victory against the Drachnids, the Hammy and humans knew they needed to work faster. The main Drachnid fleet would arrive soon, and it would be much bigger than the first attack. Engineer Yu Jin stood in the Dawn Seeker's engine room, watching Dr. Taiwan install a human AI core. The small device hummed as it connected to the ship's systems. "Are you sure this will work?" Yu Jin asked. "Our neural interfaces were never designed to work with AI." Taiwan smiled as he made another adjustment. "That's why we're not trying to make them work together. We're creating something new." He turned to his AI assistant. "Lisa, start the integration test." The ship's lights flickered for a moment. Then Lisa's voice came through the ship's speakers, clearer than ever before. "Integration successful. I now have access to all ship systems while maintaining independent processing." Yu Jin watched in amazement as Lisa began optimizing the ship's fusion drive. The engine's power output increased by 20% almost immediately. "How did you do that?" she asked. "Your neural interfaces are good at controlling the ship," Taiwan explained. "But our AI is better at finding ways to improve systems. Together, they'd make each other stronger." On the bridge, Captain Du Young and Commander Han Gil watched the power readings climb. "Your AI technology is incredible," Du Young said. "Why didn't the Council races think of this?" "Because they're too focused on neural interfaces," Han Gil replied. "They think linking their brains directly to machines is the only way forward. They forgot that sometimes an outside perspective sees things differently." Jia Yun called from her station. "Captain, the other ships are reporting successful AI integration. The human AIs are helping them modify their weapons too." The main screen showed their combined fleet. 20 Hammy ships and 10 human vessels were now upgraded with the new hybrid technology. The Hammy ships' fusion drives glowed brighter than ever, while the human ships now had better control systems thanks to simplified neural interfaces. Sun Mai arrived on the bridge with new intelligence reports. "The Drachnids are gathering a fleet of over 100 ships," she said, "but they still think we just got lucky with our railguns. They don't know about our upgrades." "Good," Du Young nodded. "Let them underestimate us again." A test target appeared on their screens, an old cargo container floating in space. "Lisa," Taiwan called, "show us what you can do with the fusion cannon." The AI adjusted the weapon instantly, using the neural interface data to fine-tune its aim. The fusion beam that shot out was tighter and more powerful than ever before. It cut the cargo container in half cleanly. "Perfect," Yu Jin said proudly. "The AI found a way to focus the fusion beam that we never thought of, and it's using less power than before." Han Gil watched the test results with satisfaction. "This is what happens when we work together. Your experience with fusion technology, our AI innovation, we're creating solutions the Council races never imagined." More tests followed. The human ships were now faster thanks to Hammy engine designs. The Hammy ships had better targeting systems thanks to human eye. Every hour brought new improvements as the two cultures shared their best ideas. "We should thank the Drachnids," Jia Yun said with a small laugh. "Their invasion forced us to work together." "And the Council's prejudice," Du Young added. "If they hadn't ignored us both, we might never have found each other." As the combined fleet prepared for the coming battle, Du Young felt proud. The Hammy and humans had taken their primitive technology and made it better than anything the advanced races had. They didn't need quantum shields or antimatter drives. They had something better: creativity, determination, and trust in each other. "All ships report ready," Sun Mai announced. "Then let's show the galaxy what real advancement looks like," Han Gil said. "Not just using the newest technology, but finding the best way to use every technology." The fleet moved into formation, ready to defend their space. They might be called primitive, but together they had built something the council races had never managed. True cooperation between different cultures and technologies. The Drachnid main fleet arrived with over 100 warships. Their quantum shields made the ships look like they were wrapped in colorful fire. They'd moved in a huge attack formation, confident in their superior numbers and technology. They're heading straight for us, Jai Yun reported from her station on the Dawn Seeker. They think we'll be easy to defeat. Captain Du Young smiled. Let's prove them wrong. Commander Hangil, is your team ready? Ready and waiting. Hangil responded from the Star Chaser. Lisa has mapped out their whole fleet formation. They're not even trying to hide their movements. The Drachnid commander's voice boomed across all channels. Your primitive weapons got lucky once, but now we're ready for your railguns. Surrender or be destroyed. They've reinforced their hulls against kinetic impacts, Sun Mai noted, checking her scans. But they still don't understand what they're really fighting. Do Young nodded to Tawan. Time to show them our first surprise. Launch the containers. Dozens of ordinary-looking cargo containers floated out from the human and Hami ships. The Drachnids ignored them, just as expected. Why would they worry about simple metal boxes? Lisa, activate stealth systems, Tawan commanded. The containers disappeared from all scans. The human eye had found a way to hide them using simple temperature control and signal blocking. No advanced cloaking technology needed. Container Group 1 in position, Jai Yun reported, ready to spring the trap. The Drachnid fleet moved closer, their energy weapons charging. They fired a massive volley of plasma beams and quantum torpedoes. Now, Du Yun ordered. The hidden containers exploded into action. Each one contained a modified mining laser, turned up to full power. The beams weren't meant to hurt the Drachnid ships. They were aimed at the quantum shields. Their shields are designed to reflect energy weapons, Engineer Yu Jin explained with pride. But our mining lasers aren't reflecting. They're being absorbed. The shields are taking in too much energy. The quantum shields began to flicker and fail. The Drachnids had never thought simple mining equipment could overwhelm their advanced technology. Second wave, launch, Hangil commanded. More containers appeared, but these held railguns. With the quantum shields weakened, the metal slugs tore through the Drachnid fleet. Ships exploded or spun out of control as their engines were hit. They're trying to regroup, Sun Mai warned, forming a defensive circle. Perfect, Du Young said. That's exactly what we wanted. All ships, execute pattern strike. The combined human Hami fleet split into smaller groups. The Hami ships used their improved fusion drives to dart between the Drachnid vessels, firing precisely targeted shots at weak points that Lisa had identified. The human ships launched more hidden containers, surrounding the enemy fleet with weapons they couldn't detect. You dare, the Drachnid commander shouted. You primitive. How are you doing this? We're doing it by working together, Hangil answered calmly. Something you advanced races never learned to do properly. The battle turned into chaos for the Drachnids. Their fancy antimatter drives couldn't turn fast enough to track the nimble Hami ships. Their advanced sensors couldn't spot the hidden human weapons until it was too late. Every time they adapted to one threat, a new one appeared. Their fleet is breaking apart, Jai Yun reported happily. They're starting to retreat. The Drachnid ships tried to escape, but they had moved too close together. Their own ships got in each other's way as they panicked. The human and Hami forces picked them off one by one. When it was over, more than half the Drachnid fleet was destroyed or captured. The rest fled in disorder, their quantum shields failing and their pride shattered. Send a message to the Drachnid Empire, Du Young ordered. Tell them if they want peace, we're willing to talk. If they want more war. He looked at his human allies and smiled. We have plenty more surprises waiting. The combined fleet regrouped, their crews celebrating. They had proved that creativity and teamwork could beat superior numbers and technology. The primitive races had won the day, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chamber was quieter than usual. Supreme Counselor Ta floated in the center, their energy form dimmer than before. All around, representatives from advanced races watched as Captain Do Young and Commander Hangil presented their battle reports. The Drachnid Empire has surrendered, Du Young announced. Their invasion fleet is destroyed, and they have agreed to peace talks. Impossible, one council member whispered. They had quantum shields, antimatter weapons. And we had something better, Hangil said. We had creativity and teamwork. Chai Yun stepped forward with data displays showing their victories. Our combined fleet destroyed or captured 65 Drachnid warships. We lost 0 ships in return. The council members muttered among themselves. They had always thought the Hami and humans were too primitive to fight a modern space battle. Now they had to accept that they were wrong. Show them how we did it, Du Young said to Tadwan. Lisa, the AI, projected a huge display in the center of the chamber. It showed how they had used simple mining lasers to overload the quantum shields, how their railguns had proved more effective than energy weapons, how human AI and Hanmi neural interfaces had worked together to create better ships. You see, Engineer Eugene explained, we didn't try to copy advanced technology. We made our own technology better. Ta spoke slowly, their voice heavy with realization. We were wrong about you both. We thought newer always meant better. We forgot that true advancement comes in many forms. Sun Lei stepped forward with more data. The Drachnids thought the same way. They believed their advanced technology made them invincible. That's why they lost. They stopped looking for new ideas. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some members wanted to study the human Hami technology. Others suggested changing the council's rules about primitive races. A few even apologized for their past mockery. There will be changes, Tao announced. The council acknowledges that we were wrong to judge races only by their technology level. The Hami and humans have proved that innovation comes from how you use technology, not just how advanced it is. Do Young and Hangil exchanged satisfied looks. This was what they had wanted, not just victory, but recognition that different approaches to technology could all be valuable. We have received requests from 15 different worlds. Jai Yun reported happily. They all want to learn about our combined technology program. And the Drachnid Empire, Sun Mai added, has asked for help rebuilding their fleet. They want to learn our methods. The council made its decision official. The Hami and humans would be given full council membership. Their technology would be recognized as different, but equal to the most advanced races. Most importantly, the council would stop calling any race primitive just because they did things differently. As they left the council chamber, Du Young looked at his human friends. You know, he said, I almost feel sorry for them. They spent so long looking down on us. They missed the chance to learn from us. That's the funny thing about progress, Hangil replied. Sometimes you have to look backward to move forward. Our old technology turned out to be exactly what the galaxy needed. Taiwan was already working with Lisa on new ideas. Just wait until they see what we're developing next. Human AI combined with Hami fusion technology. We're creating things the advanced races never dreamed of. The council meeting ended with a celebration. Representatives from all races came to talk with the humans and Hami, eager to learn their secrets. But as Du Young watched, he knew the real secret wasn't in their technology. It was in their willingness to think differently, to work together, and to never let anyone tell them they weren't good enough. So, Jai Yun asked with a smile, what do we do next? We keep growing, keep improving, Du Young answered. But this time, we do it our way. No more trying to copy the advanced races. We've proved that sometimes the best path forward is the one you make yourself. 1 year after the Drachnid surrender, the Human Hami Cooperative Space Academy opened its doors. The massive station orbited between Earth and Hami space, its design combining the best of both cultures. Captain Du Young stood at the main window. watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. Our first class has students from 23 different worlds, Sun Mai said, checking her datapad. She was now the Academy's head of intelligence training. Even some drachnids applied. And the council races? Du Young asked. 6 of their young officers have joined. They say they want to learn our unique approach to space technology. The Academy was Du Young and Hangil's dream come true. A place where different species could learn from each other, where no technology was considered too primitive if it worked well. Taiwan hurried up to them, excitement on his face. You need to see our new training simulator. Lisa helped us combine human VR games with handy neural interfaces. The students can experience space battles without leaving the classroom. In another part of the station, Jai Yun was teaching a class about fusion drive maintenance. Her students included aliens who had once mocked hammy technology. Now they took careful notes as she explained how simple solutions often worked better than complex ones. Remember, she told them, the most advanced answer isn't always the best answer. Sometimes the old ways, used cleverly, work better than anything else. Engineer Yu Jin had her own workshop where students learned to combine different technologies. Right now, they were studying how to use human AI to improve their homeworld spaceships. The key is not to copy others, she explained, but to understand why things work. Then you can make them work better. Commander Hangil walked into Do Young's office later that day. The room had a clear view of both Earth and hammy space. Hard to believe it's only been a year, he said. So much has changed. The galaxy learned an important lesson. Du Young replied. No one has all the answers. We all have something to teach each other. They looked at a display showing the newest ships being built. Some used human-style AI with handy fusion drives. Others combined drachnid quantum technology with human targeting systems. Each was unique, showing how different ideas could work together. The council asked me an interesting question yesterday, Hangil said. They wanted to know our secret. How did we create such good technology without following the normal path of development? What did you tell them? I said we succeeded because we didn't follow their path. We found our own way. And now we're helping others find their way too. The Academy had become more than just a school. It was a symbol of how the galaxy was changing. Species that once looked down on primitive races now came to learn from them. The old ideas about technological progress being a straight line from simple to advanced were gone. Look, Sun Mai called out suddenly. On their screens, they saw a new ship design. The drachnids had created it, combining their quantum shields with human AI and hammy power systems. It was unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. Now that, Du Young said proudly, is real progress. Not just using new technology, but finding new ways to use all technology. As they watched more students arrive at the Academy, Du Young remembered how the galaxy had once mocked his people. Now those same mockers came to learn from them. The humans had shown everyone that being different wasn't a weakness, it was a strength. What's next for us? Jai Yun asked, joining them at the window. We keep teaching, keep learning, keep growing, Du Young answered. But most importantly, we remember what got us here, working together, respecting each other's ideas, and never being afraid to think differently. The stars shined brightly outside the Academy's windows. Somewhere out there, other races were waiting to be discovered. Maybe they too would be called primitive. But now, thanks to the humans and Hammy, they would find friends ready to learn from them, not mock them. The galaxy had changed, and it had changed for the better.